You are about to see a play as it was written and performed on stage. Some may find the language or content objectionable. Viewer discretion is advised. Next, on Theater Close-Up.
Hello!
Hello!
An ordinary man, an extraordinary life. Tom Dugan stars as
Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal.
the most successful one of them all.
My weapons are persistence, publicity, and paperwork.
A man who escaped death
I have survived the Holocaust.
and lived to talk about it.
How dare you think of other things? I want my monster.
Join us for Wiesenthal
Aha!
on Theater Close-Up.
My greatest satisfaction in life is when one Nazi threatens the other by saying, I will tell Simon Wiesenthal about you.
Support for Theater Close-Up is provided by the Howard Gilman Foundation, Bernard and Irene Schwartz, the Lewester T. Mertz Charitable Trust, and the President's Innovation Fund. Funding for this presentation of Wiesenthal is provided by the Darrell and Stephen Roth Foundation and Roman Kent, survivor of Auschwitz.
Hello, I'm Blythe Danner, and welcome to tonight's presentation of Theater Close-Up, 13's primetime spotlight on the innovative and provocative theater happening off-Broadway. Tonight's play is Wiesenthal, a one-man play written and performed by Tom Dugan, who portrays famed Holocaust survivor and Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal. Recorded at the Acorn Theater on West 42nd Street's Theater Row, Wiesenthal recounts the gripping life story of a man who was sometimes referred to as the Jewish James Bond, except without the martinis and Aston Martin. The play imagines an aging Wiesenthal, looking back on his life as he welcomes a group of students to his Jewish documentation center in Vienna on his last day before retiring in 2003. While Wiesenthal's personal Holocaust story and his subsequent work to seek justice conjures many dark and shocking stories, Dugan ensures that Wiesenthal's well-known sense of humor always shines through. Neither lawyer nor detective, his success rate was astonishing, with over 1,000 Nazi war criminals brought to justice during his career, yet sadly far short of the 22,000 names on his list of targets. Please join us for Wiesenthal, next on Theater Close-Up.
I was sitting on a park bench not long ago, and beside me sat down a wild-looking young man in a leather jacket with a nose ring and a mohawk haircut of many different colors. When I gave the boy a look, he said, "What's the matter, old man? Haven't you ever had any fun in your life?" "Yes," I answer. "I once made love to a peacock, and I think that you are my son." I always like to open with a joke. Hello.
Hello.
My name is Simon Wiesenthal, and welcome to the Vienna Jewish Documentation Center. I have been called the Jewish James Bond. However, martinis give me a headache. And instead of an Aston Martin, I drive an old Peugeot. And rather than guns, lasers, and rockets, my weapons are persistence, publicity, and paperwork. One thing that 007 and I do have in common, however, overwhelming sex appeal. I have been tracking down Nazi war criminals, but let me see, this is April 2003, so 58 years now. And in my time, I have brought 1,100 to justice. I'm not a detective or a lawyer or a government agency. I'm only a private citizen. I could have worked with one of the larger agencies, but I'm an independent kind of guy. I love people, but I don't trust them. I have written many books, I've traveled around the world lecturing, and I have shared my passion for justice with many students right here in my office. But today you are a very special group. Excuse me. Hello? Yeah, Celia. I promise you I will be finished on time. Yes, all right, I will bring home milk. No, I won't forget. Yes, I will write it down. I will see you at home. Goodbye, Celia. Forgive me, where was I? Oh, yes, today you are a very special group because I have to bring home milk. You are not a very special group because I have to bring home milk. I bring home milk all of the time. You're a very special group because you are my last group. Yeah. Today, I come to the office for the final time. At 5 o'clock, I am retired. I will take my sunflower and walk out of that door. My wife, Celia, will be waiting at home. My daughter and the children are visiting from Israel. They're making a party for me. Tonight, my home will be filled with the aroma of good food and the echo of children's laughter. Decorations will be hung up only as high as little hands can reach. My wife, Celia, will have 1 glass of wine and kiss everyone too much. It's a beautiful picture, yes? And yet, when I think of going home, I feel ashamed. When you wrote to me about your trip to Austria this week, and maybe you can visit my office and ask a few questions, and I say, no. I'm finished answering questions. I'm retiring. And I promised my wife, Celia, I would have no more visitors. But this morning, I wake up with a problem. This morning, I am thinking, well, Simon, perhaps you have answered enough questions. But isn't there one final question you have forgotten to ask? And so I make a call, change my no to yes, and here you are. Please don't tell my wife. And so, what is the one final question that I have forgotten to ask? I don't remember. I'm only making a joke. I remember the question, but I will ask it later. What's your hurry? You young people, you're in such a rush. I blame the microwave. Why not we visit a little, get to know each other? Maybe I will tell you a little bit about myself. Everything you hear today will be simplified. Today, you will hear Simon Wiesenthal's greatest hits. I am born in a Poo church in the Austro-Hungarian monarchy. I'm married, I have a daughter, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. They mean everything to me, but they have no interest to you. Of interest alone is my life in reaction to Nazism. I have survived the Holocaust, and I have tried to preserve the memory of those who did not. Now, here is how all of this will go. I will tell you some things that have happened in my lifetime, but there will be trouble. You won't be able to comprehend these things. These things will be beyond your power of imagination. And so I will try hard and wave my arms around. That is what people do when words are not enough. The stories of my clients are simple ones. That'll be the story of the bookkeeper, the story of the chicken farmer, the auto mechanic, the policeman. It is not my goal today to produce tears. If this is what you want, you should go home and watch soap operas. What I wish to produce is knowledge. Knowledge of the horror and awareness of the danger. Oh. I should show you the restroom key. And there are some cookies in the back for you. Raspberry shortbread. Yummy. It's a going away present from my landlord. I've always liked him. You will excuse me one moment while I make a telephone call. Eh? There's some coffee in the back for you as well. Hello, my name is Simon Wiesenthal, and I'm returning the phone message of a reporter at your newspaper named Greenberg, Natalie Greenberg. She has information regarding Alois Brunner, the Nazi war criminal. Yet Nazi. Yeah. No? No. I don't want the obituary department. No. Alois Brunner is still alive. He is the world's highest ranking Nazi fugitive still living. Miss Greenberg asked me to call at this time. She is not in. Will you please tell her that Simon Wiesenthal has called her back? My telephone number is 486-4208. And to whom am I... Wait. To whom am I speaking, please? Stanley at the front desk. Thank you so much, Stanley at the front desk. Forgive me. And so, where to begin? Shame. We will begin with shame. Shame is the most dangerous force in all human life. It is poison. Whenever people feel empty, unworthy, they will fill themselves with anything. Today, this is what makes a young girl strap a bomb to herself. After their defeat in World War I, the German people were poor, empty, ashamed. Put yourself in their place. Your child cries from hunger. You have nothing to give her. So what do? Anything you can. Huh? I once saw a homeless man wearing a sign, "I will do any job." And I thought, aha, this is where it starts. This was his opening. Perhaps you know of whom I speak. Eh? Adolf Hitler and the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or the Nazis. He lifted the German people's shame and dropped it right in the lap of the most popular scapegoat in history, the Jews. Whenever the majority is whipped up against the minority, it is the Jews who are eventually crucified. Good news, ladies and gentlemen. Forget your shame. You are blameless. The enemy are those treacherous Jews. If we get rid of the Jews, we get rid of our shame. Now, how could any intelligent person buy that load of manure? You remember your hungry child? Hitler puts bread in her mouth. Hitler gives you a job building a super highway. Now, instead of shame, you feel pride. What is always left out of the history lessons is how charismatic Hitler was. Yes, he was an amazing public speaker. He was fascinating. He was mesmerizing. You could feel heat when looking into his eyes. The German people cheered in the streets, filled with pride, holding up their children, no longer crying from hunger. Now they cry from happiness. But this is heresy. How can Simon Wiesenthal speak this way of Adolf Hitler? If we do not honestly try to understand how it happened then, it will happen now. Here is some more heresy. For me, the Holocaust was not only a Jewish tragedy, but a human tragedy. After the war, I urged Jews to speak not only of the 6 million, but of the 5 million others killed as well. This made me unpopular. But for me, whether it is the Christians being thrown to the lions, ethnic cleansing in Yugoslavia, or this new tragedy unfolding in Darfur, we must speak of all genocide to prevent all genocide. Around the time of World War I, the Ottoman Empire, Turkey, systematically killed 1.5 million Armenians. And the world let them get away with it. Hitler once said, I have no worries over killing the Jews. After all, who today speaks of the annihilation of the Armenians? So, why? Why did Hitler hate the Jews? There is one theory. He may have caught syphilis from a Jewish prostitute. But no one knows for sure. Maybe that's not even important. What is important is that he did hate the Jews, and he was able to make Germany hate them too, give them a scapegoat for their troubles. Before Hitler figured out the most efficient way to murder thousands of people at once, Jews were herded into a small area of a city, ghettos. The cobblestones were pulled from the streets, so we walked in mud. A fence was built around us like a zoo. People laughed at those filthy subhumans. Well, one of those filthy subhumans was named Rosa, my mother. Of all of my memories of her was the time when I was 33 years old and we was living in ghetto in Lwów, Poland. And this one night, my mother, she prepared a little something for my young wife and I to eat. She never eat with us. But this one day, she fell. And I catch her in the air. 3 days, she eat nothing. Everything for us. Well, you know, this is so dramatic that more than anything else in me made this impression. Only this moment, a real Jewish mother. In the ghettos, Jews were either starved or worked to death, and those who survived were eventually sent to extermination camps. There was about to be a roundup. My family still had a gold watch. So I told my mother how to fix the problem. Later that day, I was allowed an urgent phone call at work. So, what have I done to deserve such a smart son as you? They took Papa's gold watch, Simon, and they left me alone, just as you had said. We must celebrate. Can you bring home a potato? I am making soup. One moment, Simon, there's someone at the door. August 23rd, 1942. I'm running to the railroad yard to find her. There's hundreds of people locked in these cattle cars, pleading for water, water, water. I'm calling out for her, but nothing. There was nothing. It was not a possibility to help. The next morning, that train is still there. It stands in the sun for 2 days. Look, now my mother would be 124 years old. You'd think after all this time, the nightmares would stop. I was an architect by trade. Yeah, and so was of value to them. But my young wife was what they called superfluous. However, because of her blonde hair and her blue eyes, she could pass as a Gentile. The last time I had seen her, I have fixed the problem. I have found a safe place for you. I've arranged a seat on the next passenger train out of the ghetto. No one will suspect that you're a Jew. My dear, please do not cry. Listen carefully. When you get off at the end of the line, look for the contact woman at the southwest corner of the station. She will give you a new name, and you will be safe.
All aboard.
My dear, Please do not cry. This is happy news. I have fixed the problem. My dear, look at me. Look in my eyes. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. It is just as we promised on our wedding day. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Now go. You will be safe in Warsaw. Perhaps you have heard of the Warsaw Uprising. Jewish ghetto fighters in 1943 battled against the Germans for nearly a month before Nazi artillery leveled much of the city. Somewhere underneath that rubble lay the body of my young wife. I have fixed the problem. I tried to escape and was caught. I was a slave laborer at the Prasov concentration camp, and from there to Auschwitz and Gross-Rosen, Buchenwald. I was a prisoner in over a dozen camps. The camps were as punishment for looking into the eyes of one camp guard. He had my toe cut off. There was an infection in the spring of 1945 with gangrene in my leg. We were marched through the snow to Mauthausen in Upper Austria. Out of our original group of 6,000, only 1,000 was left with only grass to eat. We were starving. I began losing my mind, dying. I rest my head on the dead leg. Slowly, my heart begins to surrender. In my mind, I see the white stars in the heavens disappearing one by one. The star of hope, the star of love, the stars of justice and tolerance all fading away with the dying rhythm of my heart. And finally, the ground shakes, my heart quickens, my eyes open. Slowly, I stumble over corpses to the doorway. Blinded by stars, white stars. The stars have returned. Is this a dream? Can it be true? If you can touch it, it's true. Touch the stars, Simon. Make it true, Simon. Gone is the sweet smell of burnt flesh that hung in a greasy cloud over the yard. Touch the stars, Simon. Make it true, Simon. Prisoners laugh and cry into soldiers' arms. Oh, get off the ground, Simon. Stand up, Simon.
It's okay, mister. You're safe now.
I feel his rough uniform on my skin. No words. I point.
You want to touch the flag, mister?
Yeah. Slowly, I am helped to the American tank. With trembling hands, I reach out and make it true. I have survived. They take away the dead. American doctors in white coats give us pills and vegetables and meat. Not long after, I was in something called the American War Crimes Office, only a few days before the German commandant had reigned. I rub red ink on my cheeks to appear healthier, so the doctors would not send me to hospital. Oh no, I had to be here, this American War Crimes Office. It was the tip of justice. Huh? Oh! These SS men were so big, so powerful, so deadly in their eyes. I could see the skull and crossbones. The mere thought of catching their glance makes me nauseous. It is humiliating. And for me, the humiliation was the worst. However, standing before the Americans, these perfect specimens of the master race tremble. I sit quietly for hours as these revolting cowards are interrogated by the soldiers. It was a slow process, but I was in no hurry. Many of the worst criminals slipped through the net, but these young Americans, 21 years old, maybe, they were bringing justice back into the world. I heard one American say, "What's with the clown? He gives me the creeps." When I think of myself, a living skeleton dressed in stripes with red-painted cheeks, propped in the corner, dazed little jester, the doctors weren't even sure that I would live. Many died after liberation, too far gone to be helped. So why then? Why did I need to be here, this American war crimes? I suppose I wanted to be Exhibit A, a living witness to the torture and the killing, but more than anything else, as these SS Supermen tremble in the face of justice, I want them to know that I am watching. These young Americans who had fought and died to free Europe, they were like family to us. They had seen it all. They understood it all. Those who broke down the camp gates, discovered the gas chambers, the crematoriums, the bodies piled up like wood. As long as these Americans were still around, justice was carried out. But eventually, these men, they went home to their families and were replaced with others who were more interested in the Fräuleins than in justice. One of these new American captains offered up to me some sage advice. "You're a smart guy, Simon. You should know there will always be people with different viewpoints. Try not to worry so much about it. Back home, we've got Democrats and Republicans. Here, you have Nazis and Jews." I knew in the long run, it would be our responsibility to bring these criminals to justice. In the early post-war months, I watched for these families, the millions of missing people to come home, as a great migration, walking hand in hand out of the forests and the countryside where they'd been hiding. No one comes. Farmers, doctors, teachers from all across Europe. Gypsies, Soviets, Poles, Slavs, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses. 11 million people who don't come home, who didn't fit into the Nazi mold of racial purity, murdered. 6 million, including all of my own relatives executed for the sole crime of being born Jewish. I am making another telephone call. Hello? Stanley at the front desk? Simon Wiesenthal calling again. I'm wondering if you gave my message to Miss Greenberg that I called. In regards to Alois Brunner, the Nazi war criminal? Yes. Yes, thank you. I will hold. While prisoners waited online to be gassed, Alois Brunner forced them to write postcards home. They are treating us very well at Buchenwald, that sort of thing. When the group of a few hundred Jews missed the train to Auschwitz, Brunner had them herded onto a boat and then sunk it at sea. Since the war, Brunner has been working for the Syrian government as a torture specialist by the name of Georg Fischer. Syria claims that they would gladly extradite him if we could only provide his exact address. From time to time, he still gives telephone interviews bragging of how he rid the world of so much Jewish garbage. I have been Yes, Stanley, I'm still here. Yeah, Brana is a Nazi war criminal. Yes, I do have a pen. I should contact Simon Wiesenthal. I am Simon Wiesenthal, Stanley. May I please speak to Ms. Greenberg? Thank you. What a yacht. This morning I am thinking. I do a lot of thinking this morning. Don't worry, I've not forgotten to remember the one final question that I have forgotten to ask. But this morning I am also thinking, maybe on this, my last day of work, I can see to it that Alois Brana soon hears the same knock on his door that my mother had. Maybe this I can do. Maybe if I do this one final thing, I will not be ashamed to walk out of that door. But time is running out. Tomorrow morning, my whole office is to be packed up and shipped to the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles. I have been working. Yes, Miss Greenberg, my name is Simon Wiesenthal, and yes, I do have a pen. One eye, and the fingers of his left hand are missing. No. He is Austrian. We were able to take a photograph. No, of course not. Of course not. Do you have a telephone number? 1136. Thank you, Miss Greenberg. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I will. Last week, at the Meridian Hotel in Damascus, Syria, this journalist is exercising on a treadmill beside an elderly Austrian with an eye patch and only a thumb on his left hand. This man is Alois Brana, alias Georg Fischer. If I can confirm today that he is a resident of the Meridian Hotel in the current political climate, this war on terror, Syria may finally extradite him. But how to confirm the address? My health is not what it once was. But I'm all right. I always thought getting old would hurt more. I have mostly enjoyed good health, but I am not as invincible as I once thought that I was. In December 1945, I celebrate my liberation by riding a horse in a nearby field. It was wonderful until the horse stopped and I keep going. I break my leg. While recuperating in Linz, Austria, my friend Felix from the camps came to see me with a very odd story. Simon, I think I have found myself a new bride. While in Warsaw, I was looking for information regarding your wife's death. If I can help, I should help, am I right? Well, I should have known better, but I don't blame them. Everyone wants out of Poland. They see an opportunity. Leben lassen. Well, 3 women show up claiming to be Mrs. Wiesenthal. What can I tell you? I've traveled back here with one of them. Felix, my wife is dead. And what's more, you've never met her. You have no idea what she looks like. Why did you bring me this woman? Well, Simon, this is the thing. I also lost my wife in the war, and it's a very beautiful woman. Once I clear this with you, I will marry her myself. She's in the next room, if you don't mind. No, Felix. You will have to find yourself a different bride. This one is mine. Yeah, it was my young wife, Sila. She had not died in Warsaw after all. We held each other for a long time. We shared our stories, counted the relatives that we had lost, 89, and agreed that it was a miracle that we had survived. 9 months later, another miracle. Our daughter, Paulinka Rose, was born. And now Paulinka has children. And her children have children. My daughter, the grandmother. Talk about feeling old. Here's a photograph of them at the beach in Israel. If you had told me I would live to see this, I would have called you verrückt. Hello? Yeah, Sila. Yes, I'm alone. No, there's no group here, of course not. I promised I would have no more visits. Oh, Dan? Oh, just some friends dropping by. The landlord squealed on me. That rat, I never liked him. All right, Sila, I'm very sorry. Just one last group. I promise I will not be late to the party. Yes, I'm being a good host. I put out the cookies that the landlord gave me. Yes, I've always liked him. Yes, I showed them the restroom key. I showed you the restroom key, right? Yeah. I showed them, Sila. No, I showed them. She won't believe me. Please, tell her yourself. Everyone say, yeah, Sila. I mean it. 1, 2, 3.
Ja, Sila.
You see, we are all very safe. I will see you at home. My wife worries. Women are different. Well, we've been married for 66 years. Maybe she will change. A man has a suit made. He comes home, shows his wife. The wife says, this is a terrible suit. One arm is too short, one leg is too long. You must demand your money back. The man goes back to the tailor and says, this is a terrible suit. One arm is too short, one leg is too long. I demand my money back. The tailor says, this is a good suit. You just have bad posture. If you hold yourself as the magazine models do, relaxed and turn to the side, the arm and the leg fit perfectly. The man thanks the tailor and walks out of the shop. He passes 2 old women. One says, oh, look at the poor crippled man. The other one says, yes, but doesn't the suit fit nicely? When I am confronted with opposition in my life, and that happens a lot, humor can be used as a bridge. People who are laughing together sometimes forget to kill each other. Yeah, it's good. No worries. Do your job in the next one tomorrow. It'll be fine. When will you learn? Oh, maybe 100th birthday. At 8:05 p.m. on the night of May 11, 1960, a balding, middle-aged man got off the bus in Buenos Aires. After a long day's work at the Mercedes-Benz factory, Ricardo Clement was tired, and he looked forward to dinner with his wife and his 6-year-old son. Before crossing the street, the young man politely asked for a cigarette. When Ricardo reached into his pocket, 2 other men jumped out. His wife never heard the screams as they sped away. Who would do such a terrible thing, and why? Why kidnap this average man? He wasn't rich. He paid his bills. He was a good neighbor. He loved his family. Ricardo Clement was an unremarkable man, apart from the fact that his real name was Adolf Eichmann. In 1942, the Nazi bigwigs agreed that the final solution to the Jewish question was mass murder. and Adolf Eichmann was put in charge. It was Eichmann who, from behind his desk, meticulously worked out the practicalities of how to kill 11 million people. I obsessed over the capture of Adolf Eichmann day and night for 16 years. In Austria, I became known as that nutcase, Eichmann Wiesenthal. My daughter Paulinka grew up with a father whose obsession with Eichmann seemed more important to him than she was. And now, all of these years later, as I sit in a Jerusalem courtroom, I'm finally going to see the monster. A creature whose own obsession resulted in a death toll numbering well over the entire population of Austria. The door opens, and out from the very pit of hell steps a bookkeeper, a timid little fellow with a twitch, a man whose vulnerability was so apparent your first impulse might be to protect him. A bookkeeper. Where is my monster? Where is the devil with the black boots and the snarling dogs? I don't want a bookkeeper. I want my monster. After the incomprehensible bill of indictment was read, the murder of 11 million men, women and children, Eichmann simply answers,
Im Sinne der Anklage bin ich nicht schuldig.
I am not guilty. To say that this was unsatisfying would be the greatest understatement in human history. It was all wrong. This calmness, this normalcy. On a break outside the Israeli courtroom, the sun shines. Children laugh. The train leaves on time. A woman buys shoes. Why buy? Why buy when there are millions and millions to choose from? 100 truckloads of shoes, 400,000 gold watches, 319 pounds of wedding rings. This is a list of items collected from Treblinka, Soberborn, Belzig. In just 1 year, these numbers, I can't get them out of my head. How can you? How can anyone? How can the sun shine? Don't you care? Don't you know who is in that building? How dare you think of other things? Life cannot just simply go on. But life does go on. Most of the people in the city had lost loved ones because of this little bookkeeper. But life does go on. I did not capture Adolf Eichmann. An Israeli team of Mossad agents did. But in order to avoid an international incident with Argentina, the world was not allowed to know that. And the search for Eichmann was a jigsaw puzzle, solved with the cooperation of many different people who didn't even know each other. I am proud to have added a few pieces. Eichmann's trial in front of an Israeli court in 1961 lasted 14 weeks. He was indicted on 15 criminal charges, including crimes against humanity itself. Now, Eichmann explained that he was only obeying the German laws of Adolf Hitler. I believed him when he said he was not anti-Semitic. How many left-handed people do we have here today? Please raise your hand. Thank you. Eichmann explained that he would have just as easily gassed all left-handers if he was ordered to. And what's more, if Hitler had instead commanded that Eichmann establish an independent Jewish state in Palestine, he would have done that. The mountain of dead human beings behind him was not due to any hatred or criminal character. Much like the 9/11 terrorists, Eichmann was not a sadist or a sociopath. It does not take a criminal mind to commit mass murder. simply blind obedience to authority. Eichmann was convicted on all counts. His hanging on June 1st, 1962 remains the only civil execution ever carried out in Israel. And so, what was the value of the trial of Adolf Eichmann? Revenge? One life for 11 million? No, revenge cannot be the goal. It was for me at the beginning, but I soon learned that it was justice, not vengeance, that I wanted. Because look, you cannot hate all day long. Just like you cannot eat all day long. You get full. The value of the trial of Adolf Eichmann, the uncomfortable lesson for humanity was this. If an average man is capable of such terrible things, then so am I. Humanity was forced to look in the mirror. Now, while we had the world's attention, I took the opportunity to spark interest in hunting down more Nazi fugitives. I published the book, I Hunted Eichmann. Some accused me of taking credit for the capture, which I didn't. But what I did do was introduce a new word into the vocabulary of all of those Nazi criminals hiding in South America. Wiesenthal. Yeah, this is the Meridian Hotel, yes? And to whom am I speaking? Zeda Asmahan. Hello, Zeda. I am Dr. Richard Kimball, calling from AustriaDrugs.com. I have a rush order for a heart medication for Mr. Georg Fischer, and I just need to verify his mailing address. Oh, you're not allowed to give out that information. I see. This prescription, Zeda, has the red sticker on it. And the red sticker means I need to rush it overnight, if you know what I mean. So if you could just quickly verify that he is a resident. No? Well, all right. I'll make a note. Zeda Asmahan said no to the red sticker. I'm sure Mr. Fischer's family will understand, and if not, you can explain it to them at the funeral. Oh, Zeda, I'm sure you're going to change your mind about this, and so my telephone number is 431-486-4208. The FedEx man will be here in only a few moments, and so I look forward to your call. Not exactly kosher, but I can live with that. Now, where was I? Ah, yes, I published a book, I Hunted Eichmann. I became famous overnight. Letters poured in from around the world. And those who did not have my address simply wrote on the envelopes, Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal. And they still arrived. Evidence against camp guards, the donations to the documentation center, and hate mail, lots of hate mail. Those letters usually begin with, Dear Jewish Dog. I still get them. Yeah. We have a special place for them here. This is the Meshuggah file. My friends tell me, be careful, Simon. It's like telling me to be careful on an airplane. After fastening your seatbelts, what more can you do? Most of the threats are harmless. Some. I was out of town one night in the early 60s. 3 o'clock in the morning, Seele answered the telephone and was threatened.
Tell your husband to stop, or he will kill your daughter.
Seele suffered a heart attack. The police were at the apartment when I arrived. Polinka was frightened, and Seele was in bed, facing away from me. Jews have a home. It's called Israel. Will you take us there? Adolf Hitler shot himself in the head 20 years ago. Men circle the world in spaceships now, and you can't leave 1945. Will you take us to Israel? Oh, Shah, I don't want to hear your sad stories. I'm sick of your sad stories. I don't care about your sad. I want to hear a happy story, Simon. And then Mr. and Mrs. Wiesenthal took their daughter and moved to Israel and lived happily ever after. This is the story I want to hear. Can you tell me that story, Simon? No. Celia, when we all meet in the next world, those who died in the camps will say, tell me what you did with this gift of life. One will tell you becoming a doctor, another a jeweler or a banker. When they ask me, I will say, I have never forgotten you. The two of you I will send to Israel, but I cannot stop. Leaving for the office the next morning, I kissed Celia goodbye, and she whispered, where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Right here, by your side. Thank God, Paulinka was never harmed on the outside. But I wondered about the toll, the police escort, the reporters, the separateness was taking. But registering to elementary school, Paulinka's teacher said, oh, I can't believe it. I didn't know there were any Jews left. Before Christmas 1953, Paulinka was 7. She came home crying. She was the only Jew in her school. What kind of people are we? All the other children visit their grandmothers, their grandfathers, their aunts, their uncles, their cousins. Why do I have no one to visit? What do you tell a 7-year-old? All of your relatives were murdered by the parents of your classmates? Only later, very slowly, we explained what had happened, and I gave her a copy of the book, Anne Frank, Diary of a Young Girl. Such a gift. After reading it, she say, Papa, when I pray at night, is anyone listening? It was my plan to stay here only a few years, and then Celia and I would move to Israel. So 58 years later, why have I stayed in Austria? I'll tell you. The skiing is excellent. Oh, Austria is a beautiful place. You've seen the travel brochures. Dear Jewish dog. No, that's not it. Visit Austria, the magical land of Mozart and waltzes and schnitzel with strudel and raindrops on kittens. Julie Andrews sings that the hills are alive with the sound of music. However, those hills were alive with other things too, like perhaps a chicken farmer by the name of Franz Müller, the butcher of Vilna. Vilna was known as the Jerusalem of Lithuania. It had a thriving Jewish community of scientists, artists, philosophers. The famous violinist Jascha Heifetz came from Vilna. 80,000 Jews lived there before the war. Exactly 250 were alive after the Nazis got through with them. Franz Müller was responsible for the slaughter of those 79,750 people. In 1963, I was finally able to get that sadist into a courtroom. Now, Müller had been enjoying a very happy life on his farm in Gershon. The trial was held in nearby Graz, Austria. It was a beautiful area. The Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger, grew up there. I'll be back. I had Müller charged with 17 counts of murder, but the trial was not going well. Müller claimed that it was a case of mistaken identity, but the defense attorney was very good at upsetting one witness after the next, causing them to mix up the details. And of course, in court, details are everything. Let me understand this. On the one hand, you say, you'll never forget this day when Franz Mueller threw these little babies against a brick wall. But on the other hand, you have forgotten whether this day was March 14th or March 24th. There was one witness I felt that I could truly count on. I had interviewed Jacob Brody many years before. What struck me about him was how he had become totally detached from his emotions. On this one morning, there were two groups of men waiting at the ghetto exit. My group was to be sent out to work. My 7-year-old son Daniel's group was to be executed. When Mueller wasn't watching, I waved Daniel over to my group, but Mueller was watching. Franz Mueller took out his revolver and shot my son in the face here. It was a common scenario. However, his testimony was particularly valuable because of the detailed, unemotional way Jacob Brody could tell it. Now, Brody, who refused to accept the restitution money West Germany began offering in the 1950s, was living alone on a small farm in the United States. When I asked him to testify, he refused. Old emotions. He wanted to keep Pandora's box closed. However, before entering the courtroom one morning, Jacob Brody appeared before me. He had heard how badly the trial was going and got on an airplane. I have read that Mueller's two sons sit in the front row laughing and sneering at the witnesses. They will stop when I take the stand. Franz Mueller killed my child before my eyes, and now I will kill him before the eyes of his children. He revealed a dagger hidden in his belt. Pandora's box was wide open. Mr. Brody, this is exactly what they want. Listen to me. No, you listen to me. On the day that Mauthausen was liberated, one young Jew whose baby sister had been burnt alive found the guard responsible. After being beaten almost to death, this bleeding SS man, lying in the mud, brandishing a smile where his teeth used to be, called out to a nearby reporter, "You see, given the chance, they do the same. Nazis and Jews are no different." You understand? Jacob Brody entered the courtroom unarmed and was the perfect witness. A few hours later, the jury returned with a verdict.
In the case of Franz Mueller, on all 17 counts of murder, we find the defendant not guilty.
Not guilty. Flowers are tossed in the air. Crowds cheer in the streets. Franz Mueller is a national hero. Jacob Brody leaves for the airport. Why have I stayed in Austria? Although Austrians accounted for only 8% of the Third Reich, half of Hitler's 6 million Jewish victims were killed by Austrians. They don't mention that in this travel brochure. Why have I stayed? I've always thought I could do more good for Israel from the outside. And if you want to find a cure for malaria, you must live among the mosquitoes. Please don't misunderstand me. I do not believe that Austrians and Germans are the chosen people of evil. Not at all. Look. All of my life, I have rejected the idea of collective guilt. Here comes some more heresy. It is individuals who must be held to account for their actions. Not all SS men. Let me make something clear to you. There was a big difference between the rank-and-file German soldier who fought a war against other soldiers and the men of the SS who were in charge of the camps. These heroes fought a war against starving men, women, and children. Now, having said that, not all SS men were criminals. Some, not many, but some managed to get through the war without harming anyone. After the war, there was an SS man by the name of Beck who was on trial. I found witnesses from Dachau confirming that he was a decent man who harmed no one. He was discharged. There was another Nazi who saved my life in the camps. Yeah, years later, I invited him to my daughter's wedding. But why, Simon? Why? You tell me. What did every one of my clients claim at their trials? What excuse did these criminals ask humanity to accept? Huh?
Only following orders.
That they were only following orders. Yeah, that they had no choice, right? Wrong. These two men did not only follow orders. These two men made a choice. They said no. These are rare examples of courage that need to be pointed out in stark contrast to the multitude of cowards in the SS. Now, on the other hand, not all victims were innocent. No, some Jews, in order to save their own necks, did not hesitate to kill. But for me, there are no excuses. A murderer is a murderer, Nazi, Jew, or Eskimo. One morning, a man accused of being a Jewish collaborator burst through this door, jumped over my desk, and tried to kill me. Now, while this lunatic slashed a butcher knife at me, you think I said to myself, oh, the poor Jew? No, I broke a bottle over his head. A murderer is a murderer. Oh, I must not mix up these files, or my secretary Maggie will break a bottle over my head. After she drops me off at home tonight, Maggie will sweep in here like a tornado, pack up everything and ship it off to California. I promise I will touch nothing. Except, of course, my sunflower, that I will take home. The sunflower has a very special meaning for me. While marching back from work detail to Mauthausen one day, we passed a German cemetery. On every grave was planted a sunflower. Hundreds of them. How lucky they all were to be remembered. We would be thrown into a pit and forgotten, but each of these people had their own sunflower, a sort of periscope through which the dead can receive light and love, a looking glass allowing all of those individuals to understand they are not forgotten. This is my yahrzeit for the 6 million. My remembrance. Shortly after the war, several of us volunteered to retrieve Jewish prayer books from the basement of a castle in southern Austria. Thousands and thousands of Talmuds and Bibles intended to be exhibited in Nazi museums as relics of an extinct race. While packing up some prayer books retrieved from an orphanage in Issy, France, this piece of paper fell out. An 11-year-old boy wrote, "Dear stranger, the Germans are coming for me next. I am the last one. But do not pity me, because now that you have read this letter, I am no longer dead. I live in your heart. Please promise that you will never forget me. I trust you. Signed, Albert." And so I made a promise to remember Albert. I remember Albert by making sure his murderers don't get away with it. I remember Albert by making sure the murderers of tomorrow understand they won't get away with it. This is how I remember Albert. And today, as I retire, give up, and go home, it's Albert's words that I hear. I trust you. It's powerful words. I trust you. I don't think in my whole lifetime I have ever said these words to another person. You are an American group, yes? Yeah, it is appropriate, huh? I come full circle. I've always enjoyed my friendship with America. While visiting a college in New Jersey, the teacher asked if anyone knew who I was. One student raised his hand and said, "Oh yeah, you're the guy who won the Academy Award for playing Laurence Olivier." Olivier played me in the film The Boys from Brazil. Personally, I liked his Hamlet more than his Wiesenthal, but what do I know? Hollywood has made a few films about my work, some good, some not so good, but they all serve to keep the public's interest alive. I provided information for the film The Odessa File, starring John Voight and Maximilian Schell. That was a good one. Odessa was a secret Nazi organization that helped former SS men escape to South America. The antagonist in the film was based on the Nazi fugitive Edward Rashomon, who I had been chasing for years. When moviegoers learned that he was responsible for 38,000 deaths, including 800 children, Rashomon became a wanted man. Tips on his whereabouts began pouring in from around the world. I received a box from Bolivia. Inside was a carefully packed champagne glass and a note from a couple who thought they had spotted Rashomon in a restaurant. They succeeded in getting his fingerprints on the glass. I had the prints tested, and sure enough, they were the actual fingerprints of Maximilian Schell. However, after the film's release in 1974, the real Rashomon found no peace. He moved from one rented room to the next in fear of being discovered. 3 years later, in a dingy flat in Paraguay, Edward Rashomon had a massive heart attack. I am happy to have disrupted his peaceful retirement. These Hollywood stories are uncommon. My work is not glamorous. My job is, well, here is how it goes. I need to find the war record of a certain German captain. I call an office and put on hold. I call a supervisor who tells me I need a permit. I apply for the permit, but it's the wrong permit. I attain the right permit. Go back to the supervisor who has been promoted. Please talk to my assistant. I do. She informs me I never needed the permit in the first place. Here's that information on the German captain who, by the way, died last Thursday. This is my job. My office is to become a museum display. But I tell them, they must show it exactly as it is. The important work in this life is done at messy desks. Say cheese. This office is my brain. How can I say goodbye to my brain? Oh, I know. It doesn't look like much, but it has worked very well for me. I know where everything is. I remember everything, including the one final question that I have forgotten to ask. Maybe you think I forget. I don't forget. It's all deliberate. Yeah. That's not to say sometimes I don't get lucky. Lying on the floor outside of my office one morning was a filthy-looking man, reeking of schnapps. Every once in a while you meet someone that really looks like what they are. Well, this evil man, let's call him Mr. Schnapps. He had read about my search for Franz Stangl, the commandant of the Treblinka concentration camp. I did nothing wrong. They made me join. So as the little guy gets pushed around, because the men like Stangl, little guys like us have endless trouble. Once the boss finds out you were Gestapo, he fires you. It's enough to make you go back. But I wouldn't. I mean, I didn't. I like Jews. I had a Jew girlfriend once. But you know how it is. It's all these fat cats with the money. If we could rid the world of their kind. The fat cats, I mean, the Eichmanns and the Steingels, you understand. Look, I know what Franz Steingel is. I'll tell you a secret. My favorite thing in the whole world is not having a Nazi arrested. My greatest satisfaction in life is when one Nazi threatens the other by saying, I will tell Simon Wiesenthal about you. I just love that. Mr. Schnaps continued. He offered me a special prize, a penny a corpse. He wanted 1 cent for every person Stengel killed. 700,000 lives, 700,000 pennies. I could have snapped his filthy neck like a pencil. But finding Stengel was more important than this schmuck. And $7,000 seemed like a small price to pay. Stengel was working as a Volkswagen mechanic in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Franz Stengel began his career at Hartheim Castle, a sanatorium. But in the early days, Nazis conducted experiments on useless eaters. The old, the mentally retarded, the terminally ill. Later, this grew into wholesale slaughter using a pesticide called Cyclone B, where hundreds could be gassed every hour. Out of the 15,000 Nazi concentration camps across Europe, Franz Stengel's Treblinka was considered the best. The arrival platform was painted to look like a beautiful train station. There were flowers, a ticket window, first and second class doors. But behind the facade was a storage room for human hair. Men won't burn without women. This was one of the scientific truths of Treblinka. Because of their higher fat ratio, female bodies were used as kindling. Now, locating Stengel was only the beginning. It's always only the beginning. What I do is this. I find the criminals. I find the witnesses. I turn the information over to West Germany or Austria. They extradite and put the criminal on trial. West Germany has always been eager to do this. Austria was not. When they dragged their feet, I would hold a press conference and shame them into action. It took 3 years and lots of diplomacy to get Stengel. One Brazilian politician said, look, Mr. Wiesenthal, just send me $500 and I'll kill Stengel myself. But it was the trial that I wanted, not another dead body. Finally, in 1967, Stengel received a phone call saying that his daughter had been injured. When he arrived at hospital, he was arrested by police. Mr. Schnaps got his money. The trial opened up in Dusseldorf in 1970. I had nothing against the Jews. We only wanted their money. Even the poor had something. All of that racial business, the humiliation, the cruelty, the hate propaganda, that was just to condition those who actually had to do the killing. But I never hated them. It was a matter of my own survival, so I went along with it. But it wasn't easy for me either. I was under a lot of pressure to produce. Himmler ordered that there should be no evidence. But eventually, fountains of blood began spurting from the ground. It was a logistical nightmare for me. If I have done nothing in my life but to bring this wicked man to justice, I will not have lived in vain. Franz Stengel was sentenced to life in prison. He died a few months later. What I said about all of this being beyond your power of imagination? These numbers, they're hard to imagine, yes? This has been the challenge of my life. How to convey what happened when barbarism met technology. Adolf Eichmann was exactly right when he said 100 dead is a catastrophe, a million a statistic. 1.5 million children killed. How do you feel that? Well, Anna Frank was one of those children. The famous 15-year-old girl whose diary was found on the floor of the Amsterdam house where the SS man who arrested her had thrown it. Anna Frank, Diary of a Young Girl, became the story of all the lost children of Europe. Why? Because it was the story of just one girl. Rather than a nameless body in a mass grave, Anna Frank became your child and my child. You see the value.
Anna Frank never existed.
It's a fraud.
Jews just want more restitution money.
Don't believe it.
During a performance of the play, The Diary of Anna Frank in Vienna, 1958, young protesters yelled out through leaflets off the balcony, calling the story a fraud. I don't blame those students. I blame the parents. To cover up their own shame, they were poisoning the minds of their children, just as their minds were poisoned after World War I, remember? Now, shortly after the incident, I spoke with one of these doubting boys of Europe about Anna Frank. Yeah, but there's no proof. That book's a forgery. Never happened. All those gas chambers, they were just for disinfecting clothes. And the bodies, Hollywood paper mache. My father told me, and he was there. You're all a bunch of liars. I know what you're thinking. How can a child believe such far-fetched stories? Well, think of it. Which story is the more far-fetched? If someone was to tell you that your father's job was to shoot appropriately sized Jewish children to fill potholes in an airstrip runway, would you believe it? Of course not. It's ridiculous. It happened. No son wants to believe that his father was evil. How deeply do your emotions for your father go? Now, I very much want to reach these doubting boys of Europe. The only way to break this cycle of shame is to immunize these young people with the truth. Young man, suppose I was to find the SS officer who actually arrested Anna Frank. Then would you believe? Yeah, but only if he himself admits to it. Then yeah, I would have to believe. Well, it was that simple. All I had to do now is extract a confession from a faceless, nameless functionary who arrested 1.5 million children 14 years ago. Easy peasy. I had almost nothing to go on. So what? I went home. I looked through my daughter's copy of the book. In the preface, the SS man who arrested the Frank family was listed as a Viennese man by the name of Silvernagel. Unfortunately, there is no such name. This was the most difficult search I have ever had. What had I gotten myself into? I mean, after all, this man, he was a nothing. He was a pisher. I was searching for the big names, like Dr. Joseph Mengele, the Auschwitz angel of death. But I kept thinking about these doubting boys of Europe being poisoned by their fathers. If I could find this Silvernagel, whatever his name was, all of the doubting boys of Europe would understand the truth of Anna Frank and the lies of their fathers. So, I went to work. Silvernagel. Man, he must have been of low rank, since his job was only arresting people. How rude of me. Would you like a grape? No pits. It's amazing. I don't know how they do it. You need pits to make grapes. These are grapes without pits. End of grapes. Silvernagel. The V in his name was probably really a B. Silbernagel, which at least is a real name. It was only a guess, but it was a place to start. One thing always leads to something else. I had to be very careful. You must never accuse anyone without proof. In the 1980s, the World Jewish Congress accused the president of Austria, Kurt Waldheim, of being a Nazi war criminal without proof. After checking the war records of all of the Silbernagels from Vienna, none was stationed in Holland. I thought about contacting Anna's father, but Otto Frank had very publicly forgiven the murderers of his family. Now, I respect Mr. Frank's need to rid himself of all of that hate, but I am not interested in handing out pardons. Forgiveness, this comes from God. In this field, I believe in justice. In this field, I believe we must address problems to prevent them from happening again. Time passed, no progress. On a plane flight, I was leafing through a copy of the 1943 Gestapo phone directory. Have you read it? In it, I found a list of officers recruited from the Viennese police department stationed in Amsterdam. Kempin, Bushman, Silberbauer, Silbernagel, Silberbauer, maybe that's the name. If he was a policeman, maybe he still is. If he was from Vienna, maybe he still is. If he was alive, maybe he still is. I know what you're saying. That's a lot of maybes. The reporter, Dan Rather, once asked me if I believe in miracles. I answer, how can one be a Jew and not believe in miracles? What can I tell you? 300 phone calls later, Karl Silberbauer was arrested. He worked for the Vienna Police Department not 10 minutes from this office. He confessed immediately. Oh yeah, I arrested Anna Frank. She was the young girl with the dark eyes. Sorry about it. Of course I'm sorry about it. Because of her, I just lost my job. It made front page news all around the world. Now all of the doubting boys of Europe understood the truth of Anna Frank and the lies of their fathers. I think I'm calling my good friend Zayda one last time. Maybe she will help me retire in peace. Hello, Zayda. Dr. Richard Kimball calling again. I am wondering if maybe you changed your mind. No? Still no. The red sticker's not impressed you, huh? I really thought I had something there. You sound like an intelligent woman, Zayda. Perhaps you suspect that I am not telling you the truth, huh? My real name is Simon Wiesenthal, and Mr. Fisch's real name is Alois Brunner. He is a Nazi war criminal. Nazi. From World War II. No, I realize that you are very busy, but I'm only needing you to confirm that he is arrested. No, I cannot call you back tomorrow. There are no more tomorrow. Won't you help me, Zayda? You don't want to get involved. I understand. Listen, legally, all that I need is for an employee of the Meridian Hotel to confirm in writing that... No, Zayda. No. A sweet old man. Let me tell you something, Zayda. 61 years ago, this very day, that sweet old man marched 345 children out of an orphanage in Issy, France, and shot them in the head. I carry with me a letter from one of those children. I will read it to you. Dear stranger, the Germans are coming for me next. I am the last one. But perhaps it is your business, Zayda, huh? Perhaps it is all of our business. Do you have children, Zayda? What are their names? Won't you think it over, Zayda? I will be here for a few more moments, and so I look forward to you. And so it goes. Can we be honest here? You come here today to see a kindly old grandpa. Maybe someone tells you that I am a hero. Yeah, heroes are very comforting. Heroes fix the problem. I have here, in this room, the names of 22,000 criminals. I catch 1,100. That is 5%. 5%. I am ashamed of this number. I think maybe, yes, I am a hero. I'm a 5% hero. Oh, I have here many awards. The Congressional Medal of Honor, the French Legion of Honor, Knight of the British Empire. I'd give them all back. Every ribbon, plaque, and citation, if that woman would simply call me back. There has been progress. There has been, but I have not fixed the... Oh. I have not fixed the problem. The human savage still lurks just below this wafer-thin veil of civilization. You call him Hitler or Stalin, Mao Zedong, Gaddafi, or Ben Laden. He will always be a part of us. All we can do is contain him. My secretary Maggie has come for me. Maybe just a few more minutes. No. My time here is finished. My wife, Celia, is waiting at home, waiting at our front door for me to finally come home from the war. Remember milk. Aha! Oh, won't you see yourselves out? Please, please, take the cookies with you. Turn off the lights. There is a belief in Judaism that by remembering the dead, we keep them alive. But it is not for themselves they need to be remembered. It is for you. And so, here is the one final question that Simon Wiesenthal has forgotten to ask. After I am gone, who will remember Albert? I trust you.
hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation. You can also watch this and other plays on 13.org/theater close-up. I'm Blythe Danner. See you next time.
Support for Theater Close-Up is provided by the Howard Gilman Foundation, Bernard and Irene Schwartz, the Lewester T. Mertz Charitable Trust, and the President's Innovation Fund. Funding for this presentation of Wiesenthal is provided by the Darrell and Stephen Roth Foundation and Roman Kent, survivor of Auschwitz.